The marketplace encounter. The twin suns burned high over the open-air marketplace on the dusty moon of Veltar. The air smelled of metal, spice, and old sweat. Aliens of many kinds moved between stalls, some walking on two legs, some crawling, others floating in hover discs. Among them walked a tall alien woman, her cloak torn, her face tired. Her name was Zyril. Zyril held the small hands of her two children, one on each side. The children walked quietly. They didn't cry or complain, even though their feet were bare and their stomachs had not been full in days. The crowds looked at them with cold eyes. Some moved away. Others whispered insults. "They're from the Lost Warrior clans," someone muttered. "Cursed," said another. Zyril ignored them. She had done this before, too many times. She moved to a stall selling dry bread and protein cubes. "How much for a small piece?" she asked the seller, a bug-like alien with sharp legs. He looked her up and down, then spat on the ground. "I don't trade with your kind. Go away before I call the guards." Her jaw tightened. She said nothing and turned to walk away. Her children didn't react. They had learned long ago that silence was safer. But then a voice spoke. "Is this how you treat a mother trying to feed her kids?" The crowd turned. A tall human man stood near the stall. His clothes were dusty from travel and he had a bag slung over his shoulder. His name was Marcus. The stall owner hissed, "This is none of your business, human." "It is now," Marcus said. He reached into his bag and tossed 2 small coins onto the stall. "Give her what she asked for." The alien seller grumbled but handed over a small packet of bread. Zyril stared at Marcus, unsure. "Take it," Marcus said quietly. "They need it more than I do." She took the bread and gave it to her children. They didn't eat fast. They ate like soldiers, carefully, slowly, making each bite last. Zyril looked at Marcus again. "Why did you do that?" He shrugged. "Didn't sit right with me, that's all." A guard started walking toward them, big, armored, and clearly in a bad mood. "Move along," he shouted. "No loitering, especially not with beggars." Marcus stepped between the guard and Zyril. "They're with me," he said firmly. The guard narrowed his eyes. "You want to be fined for protecting a stray?" "They're not strays," Marcus said. "They're people. Now back off." The guard grunted and walked away, but his stare promised trouble later. Zyril looked at Marcus differently now. Not with fear, but with curiosity. She wasn't used to kindness. Not anymore. "Come with me," Marcus offered. "I have a small shelter outside the marketplace, safe. You and the kids can rest, just for the night." She hesitated, but her children looked up at her. Hope flickered in their eyes. She nodded. Marcus's shelter was small but clean. 1 room, a heating unit, and a few supplies. He gave the children warm soup. They sat on the floor and ate together while Marcus fixed a light on the wall. Zyril sat in silence. Then, when the kids were asleep, she spoke. "I wasn't always like this," she said. "I believe that," Marcus replied. "My people were warriors, strong, feared across 3 systems. But then, war came. Civil war. My husband died protecting our tribe. Our home was burned. The warriors turned against us widows. We became nothing." Marcus looked at her. "I'm sorry." She looked up. Her eyes were red, but not from tears, from fire that never truly went out. "I can cook. I can clean. My children are well behaved. I can be a good wife to you, human." Marcus nearly dropped his tool. "Wait. What?" She sat up straighter. "You're kind. You have food. You protected us. You didn't ask for anything. No one does that anymore. If you take us in, I will not shame you. I will make a good home." Marcus stared at her. "Zyril, I didn't help you to get something in return." She said nothing, just lowered her eyes. A moment of silence passed between them. A heavy, strange silence, then a noise outside, something sharp, moving through the dirt. Marcus stood quickly and picked up his blaster. "What was that?" he whispered. Zarel didn't answer, but she was already moving, quietly pulling a blade from her cloak. Her eyes weren't soft anymore. They were deadly. The mother had spoken softly, but now the warrior was waking up. A widow's truth. A soft wind passed through the dusty hills outside the marketplace. The stars above Veltar began to shine one by one. Inside the small shelter, Marcus sat with his back against the wall, his blaster resting on his lap. Zarel stood by the door holding a long, curved blade in her hand. They had heard something, but now everything was quiet again. After a long silence, Marcus spoke. "You're not just a mother, are you?" Zarel didn't. Look at him. Her sharp eyes scanned the darkness outside through a crack in the metal door. "No," she said. "Not always." She slid the blade back into a secret pocket in her cloak. Then she turned and walked toward the small fire Marcus had made earlier. The flickering light cast shadows across her face, making her look older and stronger at the same time. Marcus leaned forward. "Tell me." Zarel sat down across from him. She looked tired, but something in her voice was firm now. "You deserve to know who you helped." She began her story. Her real name was once known across 3 star systems. Commander Zarel of the Raveleth Guard. She was trained in every form of blade combat by the time she was 16. At 20, she led entire sky fleets. She served the Raveleth Queen personally. She fell in love with her second in command, a quiet warrior named Draven. He was not famous, not rich, but loyal. They married in secret. Then came the betrayal. A rival house within her species accused her of treason. The queen did nothing. Zarel and Draven were forced to flee with their infant daughter. The Queen's Guard, the very people she once led, were ordered to kill her. They were hunted. For 5 long years, they ran from moon to moon. They had a second child, a boy. Draven died during a raid on a supply ship. Zarel survived by erasing her name, her face, and her past. She became no one. "I've been running ever since," she finished quietly. "Living on scraps, sleeping in alleys, teaching my children not to speak too loud, not to cry, not to hope." Marcus listened closely. "You said they called you traitor?" She nodded. "Yes, because I refused to follow an order that would have destroyed innocent colonies. I chose mercy. That was my crime." A long pause followed. Then Marcus asked, "So why me?" Zarel's voice was low. "Because humans are the only species I've seen who still offer help without expecting something first. I've watched you in this marketplace. You give food. You fix broken things. You speak with kindness. You remind me of who I used to be." Marcus looked at the sleeping children in the corner. They were curled together under a thin blanket, breathing softly. "I don't need a wife," he said. "But maybe I need a reason to stay here." Zarel didn't smile, but her shoulders relaxed for the first time. Outside, the wind blew harder. The night was colder. Marcus stood to check the door. That's when he saw it. A mark had been burned into the sand just outside the shelter. A circle, with a jagged line through it. Ancient Raveleth script. A symbol from the Queen's Guard. He stepped back quickly. "Zarel!" She was already moving. She rushed to the doorway and froze when she saw the symbol. "It means target located," she whispered. Marcus swore. "They found you?" "No," she said. "They found us." She turned to her children and gently picked them up, still asleep. "We can't stay here. They will come at sunrise." Marcus grabbed his bag and loaded his blaster. "Where do we go?" "There's a human mining station 2 sectors east," Zarel replied. "If we can reach it, we'll be safe. The Raveleth Guard can't enter human space without permission." "But it's a long journey," Marcus said. "And they'll be hunting us." Zarel looked him dead in the eyes. "Then we'll run, faster." As the stars brightened above them, Marcus and Zarel left the shelter behind. The children slept in her arms. Marcus led the way with a handheld scanner. Behind them, the symbol in the sand glowed faintly red. Zarel whispered under her breath, "Let them come, I'm not afraid anymore." Not just a mother. The twin moons had barely moved in the sky when Marcus and Zarel reached the edge of the canyon pass. The path ahead was rough, jagged rocks, sand traps, and old wreckage from forgotten battles. Zarel's cloak blew gently in the cold wind. Her children were awake now, holding her hands, eyes wide but silent. Marcus checked his scanner again. No movement yet, but that won't last long. Zarel didn't answer. She was staring at an old satellite dish, broken and buried in dust. Her eyes narrowed as if she saw something more. "What is it?" Marcus asked. She stepped forward and knelt beside the metal. "Human tech, military grade, 20 years old, still usable." Marcus blinked. "That's junk." "No," she said, calmly. "It's a relay dish. With a bit of work, we can use it to scan their frequency." He crouched beside her. "You know how to do that?" Zarel gave him a look. "I used to build warships." Her hands moved fast, pulling open a hidden panel, rearranging wires and powering a backup cell with solar light. Her fingers were quick, steady, exact. Within minutes, static crackled from the dish, followed by a coded beep. "They're close," she said, her face hardening. "Less than 10 kilometers, they've split into 3 groups. Standard hunting pattern." Marcus stared at her. "You're not just a warrior. You're a tactician." Zarel gave a dry smile. "I was once called the Mind of Fire." They moved fast, cutting through the canyon floor. Zarel gave her daughter a small scanner and showed her how to hold it. She tied a piece of rope to her son's wrist and kept him close, teaching him hand signals with quiet patience. Marcus watched all of this, stunned. These weren't just children. They were already in training, silent, obedient, sharp-eyed. At a resting point, Marcus leaned over to whisper, "You're training them to survive, aren't you?" Zarel nodded. "If I die, they must know how to keep moving." Marcus shook his head. "You really think they'll kill you?" "They don't take prisoners," she said. An hour later, the canyon narrowed into a single path, and there, waiting like a shadow, was a massive reptilian alien with glowing red eyes and a plasma spear. One of the Queen's elite assassins. Marcus raised his blaster, but before he could aim, Zarel stepped forward and threw something, a flash mine. The light blinded the assassin for 1 second. That was all she needed. She charged, blade in hand, twisting under the spear, striking upward, and the alien dropped with a single cry. It didn't even land before she was wiping her blade clean. Marcus stared, stunned. "That was fast." Zarel turned toward him calmly. "I'm a mother. I don't waste time." They moved the body into a side crevice and kept walking. But Marcus was still quiet. Zarel noticed. "You think I'm dangerous," she said flatly. "I think you're more than I can understand." She stopped walking and turned to him. "You offered food to a stranger. That makes you dangerous in this galaxy. We both have sharp edges, Marcus. We just use them differently." A long pause followed. Then Marcus said, "I was a soldier too. Earth's army, 6 years. But I never saw anything like you." Zarel looked at him with something almost like respect. "Then you've never seen a mother with nothing left to lose." They reached a metal gate half buried in rock, a forgotten service entrance to an old human mining tunnel. Zarel used a bypass trick to force it open. Inside, the lights were broken and the air smelled like rust, but it was shelter. They set up inside quickly. Zarel laid her children down and covered them with her cloak. Marcus watched her carefully. "You know," he said, "when you first said you wanted to be a good wife, I thought you were just trying to survive." "I was," she said, sitting beside the fire. "But now I'm not sure." He looked into her eyes. "Not sure of what?" She replied softly, "I'm not sure if I want to survive alone anymore." Outside, the wind howled, and far in the distance the rest of the hunting party found the body of their fallen assassin. Their leader growled, raising a long sword etched, with ancient runes. "Mark the human as a traitor," he snarled. "Kill them all. Burn the desert if you must." The hunt had only just begun. A dangerous offer by morning, they had gone deeper into the old tunnels. Dust fell from the metal ceiling. Pipes hissed with leftover pressure. Zarel walked ahead, one child strapped to her back and the other holding her hand. Marcus followed, flashlight in one hand and blaster in the other. They had escaped the first, hunter. But Zarel knew better. The real danger always came with a smile. A faint blue light flickered ahead. Marcus moved toward it, but Zarel grabbed his shoulder. "Stop. It's a contact beacon," she whispered. "A trap?" he asked. "Maybe. Or a message." She moved forward slowly, pressed a code into the side of the beacon, and stepped back. A hollow image flickered into the air. It was a face, Errol Voran, a nobleman from the old warrior clans, rich, ruthless. He had once tried to buy Zarel before she escaped her homeworld. He now served the Queen's new regime. The hologram played his message. "Zarel, I know you can hear me. You are still beautiful, even as a fugitive. I'm told you've taken shelter with a human. He doesn't understand who you really are, but I do. I offer you safety, a new title, a future, if you give yourself and your children to me willingly. Or refuse, and I will burn every place you hide. Choose wisely, widow." The message ended. Zarel didn't move for several seconds. Then, she reached into her cloak and crushed a small tracking chip hidden in the beacon. Marcus broke the silence. "You know him?" "He's the one who put the bounty on my head. Do you think he knows we're watching?" "Yes," she replied. "He wants me scared, desperate, but I'm done being afraid." They set up camp in a small room with collapsed beams. While Marcus prepared food, Zarel cleaned her blade. Her children curled up nearby, playing silently with a broken circuit board. "You don't have to face him alone," Marcus said. She looked up. "You don't owe me anything." Marcus leaned forward. "Neither do you. And yet here you are, risking everything for your kids." Zarel studied him. "Would you protect someone like me?" Marcus nodded. "Without question." For a moment, she said nothing. Then she whispered, "That's why he'll target you now." Later that day, they found a tunnel leading upward, toward open ground. But as they reached the surface, they saw a group waiting. Not soldiers, traitors, junkers. 5 aliens with rusted armor and high-powered rifles stood near an old hover truck. Their leader, a 3-eyed alien named Bresh, raised a hand. "Well, well, if it isn't the warrior widow and her human pet." Marcus raised his blaster. Zarel didn't move. Bresh smiled. "Don't bother. We're not here to fight, just to talk. Got a message?" "From Errol Voran?" Zarel asked coldly. "Smart, lady," Bresh said. "He says the human doesn't have to die, just give yourself up. He'll even pay this guy. What's your name again?" Marcus said nothing. Bresh chuckled. "Whatever. Look, human, this is a good deal. You hand her over, you get 10,000 credits and a transport to any human colony. No questions asked. That's better than being hunted across the galaxy for helping a traitor." Marcus looked at Zarel. Zarel looked at the ground. Her voice was low. "If you want to leave, I won't stop you." For a long moment, no one spoke. The wind picked up. Then Marcus slowly holstered his blaster. He stepped forward and punched Bresh in the face. The traitor stumbled back roaring, but before he could attack, Zarel had drawn her blade and placed it at his throat. "I am not property," she hissed. The other traitors raised their weapons, but Marcus pulled out a flash grenade and threw it. Light exploded across the clearing. In the confusion, they ran. They found cover behind a wrecked freighter and caught their breath. Zarel looked at Marcus. "Why didn't you take the offer?" He shrugged. "Because I already have something better than 10,000 credits." She stared at him. "My kids?" she asked. He smiled. "Them too. But I was talking about you." Her face didn't show it. But inside her, something broke. A wall she had built long ago, and something new began to grow. That night, as stars lit up the sky, Zarel sat by the fire with Marcus. Her children slept peacefully beside them. She spoke softly. "I never believed in second chances." Marcus replied, "Then let me show you how it feels." But far away on a silent moon station, Arel Varan watched the beacon logs. He smiled. "She's making it more fun," he said. "But no matter where she runs, I always win." The bond is tested for 2 days. They stayed hidden near a dead mining site. The walls were cracked, the air smelled like rust. But for once, Zarel's children could sleep without fear. Marcus fixed a broken solar heater. Zarel taught the children how to read human letters. They shared food, fixed gear, and sat close at night by a weak fire. It almost felt like a real home. But peace never lasted long on Veltar. On the third night, Marcus noticed something strange in the stars, a blinking red light far above. Too slow for a patrol ship, too steady for a satellite. He showed Zarel. Her face turned cold. "That's a drop beacon. Someone's coming." "Your people?" "No," she said. "Worse, bounty hunters." They packed in silence. Zarel tied her daughter's boots tight and handed her a stun stick. She kissed her forehead. Then she gave her son a map and whispered, "If we get separated, follow this path. Don't stop until you see human flags." The children didn't cry. They had learned what real fear was, and how to walk through it. Marcus checked his blaster, again. "If we move fast, we can outrun them." But Zarel shook her head. "Not this time. They're already here." They made it halfway across the canyon when the first shot hit. A glowing pulse slammed into the rocks near their feet, exploding into shards. Marcus threw himself over the children. Zarel spun, drawing her blade. 4 bounty hunters stepped out from the shadows, tall, armored, with red visors. Their leader, a sharp-faced alien with glowing tattoos, stepped forward. "No need to run," he said. "We're not here to hurt the children, just the traitor and her pet human." Marcus stood slowly. "You want her, you come through me." The bounty hunter laughed. "That's the plan." Zarel didn't wait. She launched herself forward like a storm. Her blade met steel, sparks flying. She moved fast, faster than Marcus had ever seen, a blur of silver and blood. Marcus fired shot after shot, keeping the others back. But one bounty hunter circled around, heading for the children. Zarel saw it too late. The alien lunged at her daughter, but before he could strike, Marcus tackled him to the ground. They fought hand to hand. The alien was stronger. Marcus took 2 hits to the ribs, 1 to the face, but he didn't stop. With a roar, he grabbed the alien's arm, twisted it, and used the alien's own blade to finish the fight. He fell to the ground, coughing, face bloody. Zarel finished the last of the attackers, her hands shaking. She ran to Marcus. "You're hurt," she said, holding his face. He smiled through blood. "I've had worse," but he couldn't stand. They dragged him back to a small cave. Zarel quickly cleaned the wounds. Her hands moved fast, but her eyes were wet. "This is my fault," she whispered. "You nearly died because of me." Marcus looked up at her. "No, I'm alive because of you." She shook her head. "You don't understand. I've seen love before, and every time it ended in fire. I don't want that for you." "Then don't push me away," he said softly. "Let me stay." She didn't answer, but that night she didn't sit far from him like before. She stayed close, her hand resting in his. The next morning, Marcus was still too weak to walk far. Zarel knew they couldn't outrun the next wave. They needed help. So she did something she never thought she would. She sent a signal to an old enemy. Using a hidden frequency, she called a contact from her past. A former Ravelith officer named Velka, now working in exile. They had fought on opposite sides once, but Velka had a code, and a favor owed. Velka responded, "Zarel, I thought you were dead." "Not yet," she said. "But I will be if you don't help me." Velka stared at her through the screen. "What do you need?" A dropship, medical supplies, and one seat for a human. Velka hesitated. Why should I risk my life for you? Zarel's voice was quiet. Because I saved yours once. And because I finally found something worth living for. Velka sighed. Coordinates? Zarel sent them. Don't die before I get there, Velka said. Then the screen went dark. Zarel turned to Marcus. He was resting now, eyes closed. Her children slept beside him. She looked out at the desert beyond the cave. The sky was turning, pink with morning light. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like running. She felt like fighting to stay. Zarel's past revealed. The sun on Veltar was harsh that morning. The sky was orange and sharp like fire. Dust rolled across the canyon. Inside the small cave, Marcus was sweating and pale, his wounds fighting to heal. Zarel sat beside him, holding a wet cloth to his head. Her children slept curled up nearby, unaware of the storm that was coming. She had sent the signal. Help was on the way. But old ghosts were coming too. Zarel checked her blade, then looked at her hands. They were shaking, not from fear but from something worse. Memory. She whispered to herself. I swore I'd never become her again. Marcus stirred beside her, half awake. Become who? Zarel looked away. The woman I buried when I became a mother? He blinked. Tell me. She hesitated. Then, as if opening a locked box inside her mind, she began. I wasn't just a commander, she said slowly. I was the first daughter of House Revelkar, royal bloodline. I was next in line to be queen. Marcus's eyes widened. But I didn't want the throne. I wanted to change things, less war, more peace. That made me a threat. She stood up, walking toward the cave opening. The council turned on me. They framed me for treason. Said I was in love with a human spy. Marcus sat up straighter. That wasn't true? No. The spy was fake. But they made sure the story spread. I fled, pregnant, ashamed. I gave up my name, my house, and the crown, all for a lie. She turned to Marcus. You were never my first human, but you're the first who fought with me, not against me. Marcus looked at her, silent for a long moment, then he said, I don't care who you were. I care who you are now. Zarel's lips trembled, just a little, and then the scanner beeped. A small transport was approaching fast. Zarel stepped out of the cave and looked up. A sleek black dropship roared through the canyon skies. It landed nearby, kicking up dust. The ramp dropped, and out stepped Velka, an older alien woman with one silver eye and scars across her jaw. She wore no armor, but her presence was like a wall of steel. Still alive, Velka said. I didn't think I'd see the traitor, princess again. Zarel bowed slightly. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't life or death. Velka looked at Marcus and the kids, then back at Zarel. That's why I'm here. They quickly moved Marcus onto the ship. Velka handed over med patches and thermal wraps for the children. But just as they were about to board, a second ship dropped out of the sky. Bigger, meaner, black and gold. Zarel's heart stopped. Arel Varan, she whispered. The ramp opened, and there he was, tall, proud, wearing a dark uniform with her old family crest stitched over his chest. He walked down the ramp with 10 armored guards behind him. Well, well, he said with a smirk. The lost queen and her little human family. Zarel stepped forward, blade in hand. I told you once I will never belong to you. He chuckled. You don't have a choice. You are the last of your blood, and your blood is valuable. He looked at Marcus. But he is not. Errol raised his hand. His guards aimed. Zarel stood in front of Marcus and the children. Her blade was steady, her voice low. You want me? She said. Then come and take me. Velka stepped forward. You'll have to go through me too. Errol narrowed his eyes. You? You were exiled. Yeah, Velka said. And I've been waiting for a good excuse to shoot you. Marcus, pulled himself up despite the pain, standing beside them. 3 against 10, not great odds, he muttered. Zarel grinned. We've faced worse. Then all at once, chaos. Blasters fired. Dust exploded. Zarel moved like lightning, cutting, down one guard. Velka covered her with expert shots. Marcus grabbed a fallen rifle and took out another. The children stayed hidden just as they were taught. Zarel locked eyes with Errol in the middle of the fight. He raised a sword. She charged. They clashed with a sound that shook the canyon. Blades screamed against each other. Errol struck hard. You could have ruled the galaxy, Zarel parried. I'd rather raise my children in peace. She slipped under his guard and stabbed him through the ribs. He gasped, dropped his sword, and fell to his knees. Before he could speak, she looked him in the eye and whispered, Goodbye, Errol. And then it was done. The dust settled. Velka patched up Marcus and called in a full evac. The enemy ship was burned. The threat was gone. Zarel stood alone, looking at the horizon. Her children ran to her. Marcus followed, bruised but smiling. You okay? He asked. Zarel nodded. For the first time in years? Yes. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. They stood together in silence. And behind them, the wind carried away the last of her past. The widow becomes a warrior. Again, the morning after the battle was quiet. Too quiet. Zarel stood near the ramp of Velka's dropship, staring at the horizon. She wore a new cloak, clean, strong fabric given by Velka, but her old blade still hung at her side. The children were safe, sleeping inside. Marcus was resting in a medical pod, bruised but healing. But Zarel could not rest. Not yet. Velka joined her with 2 steaming cups. She handed one to Zarel. You're still awake. I've been awake for years, Zarel replied, her voice low. Only now I can finally breathe. Velka nodded, her silver eyes scanning the sky. You killed Arl Voran. That'll shake the royal houses. I don't care about thrones anymore. But they care about you, Velka said. You're the last of House Revelkar. If they can't use you, they'll try to erase you. Zarel sipped her drink. Let them try. Velka smiled. You haven't changed. Zarel finally turned to her. No, Velka. I did change. I became something stronger. A mother. Suddenly, alarms blared from the ship. Zarel and Velka rushed inside. Marcus was already awake, limping to the control screen. What is it? He asked. Velka's hands flew over controls. A red symbol blinked fast. Multiple ships inbound. Zarel's heart dropped. How many? Velka's face tightened. At least 3 war cruisers. Royal Fleet. No flags. Stealth signature. They're here to clean up, Marcus cursed. They're going to finish what Arel started. Zarel turned to Velka. Can this ship fly? It's fast, but not fast enough to outrun war cruisers. Zarel's hands clenched. Then we don't run. Marcus frowned. We stay and fight? Zarel, we're outnumbered. I know, she said. That's why I'm not fighting alone. She walked into the back of the ship, opened a sealed chest, and pulled out something Marcus had never seen before. Her royal armor. Dark silver, etched with the sigils of her lost house. Lightweight, elegant, and deadly. Zarel ran her fingers over the chest plate, then turned to her children. Come here, she said softly. They walked to her, still sleepy but calm. You both know how to listen, how to move. Now you must learn to be brave. Her daughter nodded. Her son took her hand. Zarel knelt. I love you, more than stars, more than kingdoms. But if anything happens to me, follow Marcus. He will protect you. The children hugged her tight. Then she stood, slowly donning the armor. Piece by piece, she became someone else. No longer just mother, no longer just fugitive. She became Commander Zarel once more. Velka handed her a comm device. I've sent out a distress call to the human fleet in nearby space. No answer yet. They won't come, Marcus said. They avoid alien wars. Zarel smiled coldly. Then we give them a reason to change that. She climbed into the ship's cockpit and activated the external speakers. The others watched in silence as her voice echoed across the desert. This is Zarel of House Ravel Carr, last blood of the Queen's Guard. You come for silence. You come for fear. But I stand in your path now, not as a queen, not as a traitor, but as a mother with nothing left to lose. If you want my blood, come take it. I'll be waiting. The first warship appeared in the clouds like a shadow. Long, black, and filled with missiles. The second ship flanked it. The third hovered behind, pulsing with energy. They didn't respond to Zarel's message. They just began charging weapons. Marcus grabbed a rifle and stood beside her. Velka took the pilot's seat. We can't outgun them, but we can distract. Zarel pointed to an old mountain range nearby. Take us there. Tight passages, narrow turns will level the field. Velka lifted the ship, engines roaring. The enemy cruisers followed like giants chasing insects. The fight began in fire. Blasts rained down from above. Zarel's ship dodged, twisted, ducked between cliffs. Velka flew like a devil. Marcus shot at smaller enemy craft that zipped by. Zarel took control of the rear guns, firing back with deadly aim. Explosions lit up the sky, but they were losing power fast. Marcus shouted, "We can't keep this up." Zarel's mind raced then. Her eyes locked onto a memory on the radar. The old mining station, still buried beneath the cliffs, still full of fuel, and still wired with emergency plasma cores. She grabbed the mic. "Velka, fly straight into the heart of the station." Marcus blinked. "Wait, are you saying?" "We overload the cores, turn it into a trap, a final strike." Velka grinned. "You always had a taste for drama." They flew straight toward the ruins. Enemy ships followed, thinking they were running scared. As they entered the broken metal tunnels of the mining station, Zarel jumped from her seat and opened the core control panel. Marcus followed. "I'm coming with you." She looked at him, eyes full of pain and strength. "No, you're staying with the children." "I don't care about surviving without you," she took his hand. "And I don't want them growing up without you. Protect them, that's all I ask." He kissed her. A long, silent promise. Then he left, and she activated the cores. Outside, Velka launched a beacon pod skyward. Inside it, a signal recording Zarel's message and location. A final warning to the galaxy. Then she pulled the ship out of the tunnels, just as Zarel stayed behind. Armor shining in the light of rising plasma fire. The enemy cruisers locked, in closing fast. Too late. The mine detonated. A fireball tore through the cliffs, swallowing the lead cruiser. The shockwave crushed the second. The third ship turned too slow, caught in the blast. All three were gone in a blink of fire and metal, and in the heart of it, Zarel disappeared. Silence returned. Hours later, Marcus and the children watched the stars from a human patrol ship. The beacon Zarel sent had reached Earth space. Help had finally come, but too late to save her. Velka stood beside them. She didn't speak. She just placed Zarel's scorched blade into Marcus's hand, a gift and a grave marker. Weeks passed, then months. Marcus and the children settled on New Terra, a human colony. The children went to school. They spoke both human and Raveleth tongue. And every evening they lit a small candle by the window, for the mother who fought for them, for the woman who burned brighter than any queen. One night, as Marcus sat outside watching the stars, a shadow approached. He turned and stopped breathing. She stood there, scarred, thin, tired, but alive. Zarel. She had survived the blast, hidden deep in a shielded control room, crawling out hours after the smoke had cleared. She had walked across deserts, stolen food, changed her name, searched for him for months, and now she was home. Marcus ran to her, held her like he would never let go. She whispered in his ear, Told you I was hard to kill. That night her children wept in her arms. And, across the stars, word spread of the widow who defied warships, survived fire, and came back from the dead. She was no longer just a fugitive, no longer just a warrior. She was legend.